and also answer the questions that will be asked by our two intrepid reporters from PLAZA, the ARAMASTexas.com, and that would be Elaine Wolf and Gilbert Garcia. So thanks for coming back. Appreciate you as always. Let me introduce our candidates very quickly, go around our table here. Dr. Gloria Rodriquez is a candidate running in District 7, author and community activist. Welcome to the show. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you. It's
We
great to be here.
Fred Runhell is a small business owner running. Is this your first time running?
No, this is not my first time.
Okay.
I ran against Julian Castro.
Okay.
Who knew?
All right, there you go. Well, welcome to our show. Ruben Cortez is a realtor and broker. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And you were telling me you actually worked at KTSA at one time.
Back in the day, in the 70s, we used to do the late night shifts, and we'd all walk around and talk very
We
softly.
won't hold that against you.
Thank you very much.
Cris Medina is a Naval Reserve officer and business owner. And Cris, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Jack. Great to be here.
And a familiar voice and name, because she had this seat on City Council at one time, is Elena Guajardo. Welcome back, and you've done this whole drill with us many times before.
Thank you. Good
So
to be
good
back.
to see you once again. All right, let's dive right into questions, and we'll let the first one come from Elaine Wolf from PLAZA de Armas TX.com. And Elaine, we'll start the questioning with Dr. Gloria Rodriquez.
Okay, great, fantastic. I know that there seems to be something of an issue with the 2007 bond program in the district. One of the projects that voters approved and signed up for in District 7 was at Woodlawn Lake Park, and it was to take and put a pedestrian bridge next to the driving entryway there. I've used it myself off of Woodlawn Road into the park. It can be kind of dangerous if you're walking your dog or riding your bike because it's narrow and there's cars coming and going, quite a few of them. I understand that bond project has been changed significantly. That is now going to be just a pedestrian bridge. They're not adding a new bridge, and they're adding a new road that will go over to Campman, and that there are citizens who feel they were not consulted about this, that they found out about it after the decision had already been made. I wanted to find out what exactly happened, very quickly in your words, do you think? How would you do it differently? Does the project need to be readdressed?
Yes, the project needs to be readdressed, and only because I feel that many people were not included in the decision. I attended a meeting in October, and that is where I found out there were about 100 people that were just screaming that a decision had been made and it was changed without their knowledge, and that consensus had been made, but they didn't know who consensus was because they had attended most of the meetings. But the issue is that this bridge would rechannel the traffic into a residential community, a historic residential community on Campman Road. And it was very adamant that people did not want to change that. And so people on Campman are furious because you would be getting 2,000 to 3,000 cars there. And so I would do it differently because I believe in transparency, accountability, inclusiveness, and to really have the people input and not do things behind the scenes and then find out about it and then say it's too late because consensus has already determined it.
Fred, I understand that the budget too for this project went from $400,000 to something like $2.6 million, I think it is now.
That's correct. In a bond project, obviously, when you have estimates that are being brought in, there are times when budgets actually come less or under a number, so that it allows a different value. And of course, they have freedom to be able to shift and also cover, and because there are others that go over budget. So there's a shifting going on, and I think some of the candidates are making issue of the shifting going on and playing on the fact that some of the community members have not been well informed. John German, back in his day, always allowed a community to be saturated with notices to be able to bring people to a meeting. That has not happened, and we have seen too many people, particularly on West Cray, that have been just upset because the new street would affect directly under the backside of those 5 homes going into Campman, and obviously there's flood studies and things that have to happen. And those have just not been addressed with that particular group of citizens.
Mm-hmm. Elena, you, of course, were in office when this bond program was being developed. How different is what's happening now from the original project?
Well, it's totally different. Doesn't look anything how the scope for the first bond is, the project is. But just to give you one piece of more information on this, when I was when I went in 2005, the first meeting that I had, my first month in office, Parks and Rec came to me, and every department comes every month to every council person. They give them an update, etc. And they came to me and they said, Councilwoman, we're ready to barricade the bridge. I said, what? We're ready to barricade the bridge. The boulder's ready and everything. I said, whoa, 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 whoa. I've been sitting at neighborhood meetings for 6 months. I've never heard about barricading the bridge. I said, we're not going to barricade this bridge. And that's how we continued. I had 2 meetings with 2 of the stakeholders that wanted the bridge closed. And I said, I'm not closing that. It is about safety. And there was never, even at that point, addressed what would happen to the traffic flow if you barricade that bridge. That was never addressed. So moving forward, when the bond came, the 2007 bond, neighborhood leaders came together in this bond from District 7. Neighborhood leaders, presidents, etc. And I said to them, this is your bond. This is your community. You pick the projects you want, and I will back you. When it came to Woodlawn, they said the bridge is very narrow. We all know that. And I had calls from people who had already been injured, nicked bicyclers, etc. And it's like, now we have an opportunity, because you only have an opportunity when it comes to the bond to do big ticket items. And we said, okay. And and just to give one more point of reference, there had been tried by Public Works to get a grant for safety, to do exactly the same thing that the bond was going to do. So the premise that we're speaking on, the original premise was a secondary bridge, one for people, for the bike, for the walkers, the joggers, people with the baby strollers, people with the running their dogs, etc. Humans on one bridge, traffic on the other. Simple as that.
Cris, you of course worked for Councilman Justin Rodriquez.
Yes.
Under whose tenure the plans have changed. What was the impetus for changing that project, and to what extent? Tell me specifically how the community was involved in those discussions that they were.
Absolutely. Thank you, Elaine. The project over at Woodlawn Lake, as you are aware, it was under the 2007 bond program, and in the language of the bond, it said for improvements of a pedestrian bridge, and the cost was $400,000. That was what was allocated for the project. Councilman Rodriguez had a series of public input meetings over at the Peacock Center, which is right immediately adjacent to the lake. Many notices were sent out. So we had a lot of input from community members, as well as the most impacted neighborhood association, which is the Woodlawn Lake Community Association. Input from them, input from folks that lived around the lake was sought. Again, very transparent. Again, many meetings throughout the whole entire process. The councilman saw an opportunity to take that project and make it better. Unfortunately, the project itself was woefully underfunded. $400,000 was simply not enough to provide the amount of safety, the amount of traffic solutions that could potentially improve the overall area around the lake. So when the councilman had an opportunity to advocate for more funding, he was fortunate enough to get that funding for the project. So the project is still...
And the funding came specifically from?
The funding came from one of the...
additional funding?
Yeah, it came from one of the previous budget cycles that he was able to allocate funding for that project. Also in conjunction with a drainage project which made the overall bridge, that was going to make it obsolete. He had to make the bridge larger. But the project is still ongoing. In fact, there's going to be another community input meeting probably later this month, early next month, where the community is going to continue to be involved, and he's working with stakeholders as we speak to make sure that project continues to move forward.
Ruben, I understand that there are actually a couple of homeowners right there, as Mr. Rangel mentioned, on Craig, whose houses would now back up to this pretty large thoroughfare. How would you approach this issue? They're saying they didn't know about it, they weren't part of the conversation. This project seems very close to moving forward. What would you do?
What we need to remember is how excited everybody was when this first came out. Woodlawn Lake, that whole area is trying to get a revitalization going. Much like the Jefferson area, and some of the areas there, Jefferson area really feeds into that area. So it was really a big project as it began, and as time went on, the lack of communication that we have found sometimes in this area, you know, continued, and we started with a basic bond package, and it ran its course, and then we added on to it. The people that are there were not informed. You know, I've talked to the people that live all along that way, and they've said, look, you know, we were excited when this thing was going. We're continuing to grow this area, and now here we go again. Things are happening. We're not there, not only in this area but the surrounding areas. They're kind of feeling, you know, the lack of communication is really hurt in that area. So those houses in that, they're going to be up against it. They're going to be looking at different options. The whole premise has changed. The whole meat of the program has changed. So, you know, until they find out exactly what's going on, they're going to be very suspicious all the way through.
And Cris, real quick, do we have the details on that community meeting?
I do not have the details yet.
We
but,
can get them
absolutely
at sanantonio.gov on the District 7 site.
Yeah, they'll be forthcoming very, very soon.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because I had heard that it was a done deal and that there was no more discussion.
No, that's not.
So
the
I'm
case.
glad that there is going to be.
Well, we should let the people in the area at least know that, because they don't. And like Dr. Rodriguez said, they're questioning it, and for a lot of them, they think the project's dead. They don't see any more of the advancements there. So it's going to be real important that we get that message out to them.
Especially because I did attend a meeting where the staff was being, not the staff, the planners and the engineers that were doing the program, they basically said, it's a done deal. We're going with this, and consensus has been reached.
Right.
So if it has changed, I am glad to hear that. Because there are very, very many concerns, especially on Campman Road. As I talked to individuals, we said, how can we bring all these cars in a street that's already affected by flood? And so I just think people need to be listened to and asked whether this is what they want.
All right, we're going to come back with more from these candidates in District 7, Gloria Rodriquez, Ruben Cortez, Cris Medina, Elena Guajardo, Fred Ronhell, and your questions for him. But first, it's 11:20 on KTSA. Here's Karen Klaus.
They called me. Yeah, somebody called me about 11 o'clock. I mean, about 10 o'clock.
It's 11:25 on 550 KTSA, Jack Riccardi Show. And as we get ready for Election Day 2011 in San Antonio, we've rounded up the candidates for District 7 City Council. It's an open seat with a term-limited incumbent. We have 5 challengers here today. And helping me ask the questions, the reporters from PLAZADeArmasTX.com and Gilbert Garcia. You're going to get us started. And we're going to start with Fred Ronhell this time.
Okay. Thank you, Jack. Well, Mayor Castro has recently advocated the increase of our sales tax by 1/8% to put into education, enhance the city's involvement in education. I wanted to get a sense from you, Fred Ronhell, whether you approve of the city taking this bigger role in education, and if so, as specifically as possible, how would you like to see that money spent?
The people has spoken. It's not a question whether I approve, because the people have spoken. It's been very clear that the participation of the community has been unlike any other. And if several that have already indicated that education is on the top of the list, it is. Obviously, I support the plan of the mayor concerning our education for several reasons. Education is the prime element that allows us to have a good workforce in our city, in our region, and also in our country. We have all the facility to be able to bring education into that particular workforce, because I see the two connected. I see education and I see economic development tied in together. Because as you improve and increase education in our workforce, so you must increase economic development to be able to provide jobs for those people who are prepared into the workforce.
Elena Guajardo, the city historically has had a limited role in education. So, what if we are going to put this money into education? How specifically? How should we use it?